And welcome back to the Vision Alignment Show, where we all understand how important it is to have our core beliefs, our core values, and our core strengths aligned with our vision. I really am excited to be back today. It's been a while since I've been on. Hopefully, Dave Caperton's been very accommodating for all of you, and I think from seeing some of the videos that he has shot while I was out, he seem to do a very good job. So, if there's ever anything else that we can do for you to kind of continue on with things, let me know. We've got great episodes coming up for you this week. I want to tell you about them, but I want to hold them till the end. So if you would stick with us for the entirety of the show, and we will definitely have a conversation in that regard. But I want to make sure that we get to our special guest today. Our special guest today is someone that really knows her vision and knows how important it is to have her vision aligned with those core strengths. Without any further ado, I want to bring on our friend, Rachel Luther from Check Off Your List. Rachel, where are you at? There you are.
Hi.
Hi,
Brian.
Good morning. It's good to see you this morning, and so I'm so appreciative of you being on. Thank you.
It is my pleasure. I'm really excited to be here.
Good. Well, Rachel, tell us, when is the first recollection that you have of knowing your vision?
That's a good question. I would say, I don't know exactly when, but I would say it's even before I went to college. I knew there were certain things that I cared about that I wanted to be part of my life. And at the time I had a specific way that was all going to pan out. And it didn't. But the interesting thing though, is that the things that I valued and that I wanted did pan out just in a different way. And so I think I knew that I wanted to perform. I wanted to be involved in theater and filmmaking, which I am, and I'm not out in LA. I'm in Columbus, which is a little bit different than what I maybe would have thought. I knew I wanted time with my family, and I didn't really know what that looked like. I knew I was not going to homeschool. I was homeschooled, and I went through school once, and so I'm not going to homeschool. I am now homeschooling my children, and so never say never, for sure. But I knew that I wanted to intentionally raise my children and spend time with them, because they're short years that you get to spend with them. And so, while that may have not been what I thought in my naive 20-year-old self or whatever, I'm able to do that. And I also knew from watching my dad be an entrepreneur that I wanted to do something. I wanted to own a business. At the time, I thought I would be running and managing a traveling performing group. That's kind of what I thought I might do. And that is not what I'm doing at all. Now I run a big company of virtual assistants who help tons of small businesses around the country. And so again, not what I thought, but it allows me the freedom that I wanted of being a business owner. And I think it's kind of similar to, I think, of Pixar movies, where the leads often don't really get what they wanted. Like the toys didn't get to stay with Andy,
Right.
But they found their kid. Yeah, and that's kind of what I feel like it's like. I didn't do what I set out at the beginning and what I thought, but I am literally living exactly what I wanted at the time. I just didn't know it. And so that's when, probably about 19 or 20, is when I knew what I wanted to do in my own version of it at the time.
I love it. If you want to hear more, stay right there. Rachel, so thank you so much. I really appreciate knowing all that. So there's a lot there to unpack.
Yes, there is, for sure.
Oh, my stars. So I don't know where to begin, but let's say this. What do you think is the biggest factor in your success?
I think the biggest thing, as I look back at how I've gotten where I am today, what led me down this path, I think it's a mentality that, oh yeah, I can do that. Like I decided at a very young age to start a business and to be a virtual assistant because I wanted to stay home with my kids. Like I was pregnant and realized like I want to be able to be home, but I knew I wanted something to do outside of my home as well. And so I decided to start a business. A lot of people find that very scary, and it is. Most businesses fail within the first 5 years. So the statistics are against you in some ways if you play the odds. But I was just like, yeah, I can do that. And I dove in. And I think even the same with performing and being on stage, like I'm doing different things that I've never done before. Walking on set the first time, it was just like, yeah, I can do that. And you just figure it out. You go and do. And I think that's the same like when I started my podcast. My team at Check Off Your List kept telling me to start a podcast. And once I realized like, okay, that makes sense. That's the next step. I was like, yeah, I'll start a podcast. I had never listened to a podcast before in my life. and I have listened to a lot of podcasts since then. And I spent time learning and growing and figuring out what that means. What does a podcast look like? What do you do? How do you start a podcast? But I jumped in and decided to start a podcast. And I think a lot of it comes down to just that willingness to I can do that. And you learn and grow and do it. And I think it's from being taught to be an independent learner and being taught to just try it, just go and do. Because my parents were kind of like that. I saw them do that. My dad started his own business, owned his own business. And my mom, homeschooled us back when that was very untraditional. It's way more commonplace now, especially now that it's, the pandemic and all of that. So I was kind of used to the try something new or go the odd route or whatever. And I think that has really helped me because I don't have some of those mental challenges of overcoming those things.
So you made mention a few times already to the performing. What kind of performance do you do?
So I perform in short films and the local Columbus theater scene. And so I've done a variety of different things around Columbus, not for a while now, because everything has kind of shut down, but it seems to be starting to open up now. So maybe I'll be back on stage sometime soon. We'll see.
Really? So
I don't know. I don't have any plans at the moment, but I'm hoping to.
And so do you have professional classes that you've taken to do this?
My graduate degree is in theater performance and communications. And so, yes, I have a performance degree as well as communications with a minor in business and accounting, and then went on to take additional accounting courses once I graduated. And so like I've got a twofold background. So I've got this business side of me that's very numbers oriented, data driven, like very type A. And then I have this creative side that performs and does theater and focuses on communication, creative, that type of thing. Wow. So a little bit of a dual personality going on.
And you homeschool.
Yes. I have 4 kids, 10, almost 11, she would say. Almost 11, Mom. 10, 9, and 6, and 4, almost 5. So
wow.
They will all be in school this fall, so that'll be interesting.
They're gonna go to a school?
No, they will be. My youngest will now be in kindergarten, and so they will all actively be doing school every day, which will be interesting.
Wow. You must have the older ones helping a lot with the school.
I do, but also I do a lot of outsourcing. Like a lot of how I survive my day to day is through outsourcing, and that's what my podcast is about. That's kind of how Check Off Your List started. And so as far as homeschooling goes, I actually have a tutor that helps me with their lessons. So she doesn't actually come and do school with them every day. I do school with them. I spend that time with them because that's what I wanted. And she helps me plan lessons and kind of keep them on track and researches things to do with them so that we have better activities, things like that. Because I realized I'm not passionate about being a school teacher. I never wanted to be. I said earlier, I think like I did school. I don't want to do that again. And so that's not really, I realized my passion was not in being a teacher or planning their lessons. My passion was investing in my kids and spending time with them. And so kind of my philosophy on life in order to do all the things that I care about, because there are a lot, and they're very different, so they don't overlap in a lot of ways, is to find the things that I'm really passionate about. And the things that like this right here, this thing is why I want to do X, Y, or Z. So this is why I want to homeschool, or this is why I run check off your list, or this is why I perform. And so I then outsource those other things. Once I can pinpoint why I did something, I then find people who are excited to do the other things about that. So for homeschooling, I have someone who is a tutor for my kids and helps with that. She actually, this is our last year. She's going to be doing something else next year. She's going to get to work with her family next year, which is awesome. Like I love that for her. So I'm going to be finding a new tutor for next year, hopefully, to help with that, because I realized the kids have better lesson plans and school is accomplished better because someone else is doing that aspect and I can implement it because that's what I was passionate about. And so yeah, so that's what that looks like and how I handle that. And so yeah,
that's crazy. So with the check off your list, the company you run, how many people do you have that you employ?
So there are currently 17 or 18 team members on check off your list. And that started when I started as a solopreneur, like me doing accounting, bookkeeping, and admin services, because that's what my background is. That's what my expertise is in. So I started just offering those services when I was pregnant with my youngest. And by the time she was born, in that couple months, because it was probably about 5 months or so, I was working part-time. So I was able to work part-time from home, like answering phones in the hospital and all that stuff. Because just
really?
Oh yeah. I was in labor talking to a client during my first delivery. Did not do that for the others.
Your oldest.
My oldest, yes. Okay. And as I continue to have more children, because I have 4 of them and they are all close together, and I realized like something had to give. And I wanted to be with my children. I wanted to run check off your list. Like I was passionate about both of them. And at the time, I didn't even have any time for theater. Like that was not even on my radar. I was having babies. Like you can't perform when you're pregnant because the character's probably not pregnant, And so that's where I was. And I chose that time to build check off your list. But I realized I couldn't do it all. I was getting up at 4:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, working until my kids got up. And then I'd do mom things, and then I'd put them down for naps and run to my computer to work in QuickBooks or respond to emails, and then just bounce back and forth. Colin would get home and I'd just kind of shove the kids at him and be like, there you go, and hope I could go and do bedtime and, give them kisses to work a little bit more after they went to bed. And it wasn't sustainable. Like I couldn't live like that. I had no quality of life. Like I was just doing those things to survive. And so Colin eventually, my husband eventually sat me down and was like, something's got to give. This isn't working. And I decided to hire my first team member, which is one of my very first things of outsourcing. Like the first time I realized like that was the solution to get where I wanted to go. And so I hired someone to help me, and I just, managed them, and they helped do the bookkeeping and helped do some of the client services. And it just kind of grew from there. So I continued to grow check off your list, and we do all forms of back office support, from HR to marketing to social media to websites to bookkeeping and all sorts of back office support for small businesses. And I no longer do the services anymore because I can't be that committed to our clients at this point in time because I have a lot of stuff going on. And but we have phenomenal team members who are experts in all of those things. And that is how I started juggling all of the things. I was able to build, check off your list through outsourcing and through, finding people who are better at all of those things than me. And then same with as I had my children, and we continued they continued to grow, and I started homeschooling them. Lessons become more intense, and I needed to be more intentional about, like hands-on projects and doing more. And I was realizing like, that's not what I'm passionate about. Where's the balance in that? How do I live the life that I wanted to live, the way that I wanted to see it? And I realized a tutor helps in that front. So I was able to incorporate that. So then I have time to spend with my kids. I have time to run, check off your list. I have time to start a podcast and all of those things.
Wow. That is awesome. I mean, Amazing. Now, do you still have the first person that joined your company? Is she still on staff?
She's not. No, it was actually,
Okay.
and I don't recommend doing this. She was actually a friend who was working part-time somewhere else and then worked part-time for me. And the thing I said, I guess to clarify, I don't often recommend hiring friends because that just mixes like personal and work, and sometimes that could get sticky. We had a great, it worked out wonderful for me in that scenario. It was perfect. We're still friends, and it worked out great. But she moved on to other things over time. Like it was a couple years later, like over time, she moved on, and that was perfect. That was great. And so yeah, that's how I started though. I hired a friend because I didn't know how to hire somebody. I didn't, I think I put it on Facebook. I was like, I need some help doing these things. And she responded, and I knew her character. I knew who she was. And I was like, I know I can work with her. I know I can trust my clients with her. And that was true. It worked out. And now we have our whole HR department who handles that. And she does a phenomenal job and does that for our clients, does that for check off your list. So now when we need a new team member, just a couple resumes show up on my desk, and so my team does some interviews and things like that, and they just kind of show up on the team now because I realized that was not my expertise. After a few bad hires, like you learn, you make mistakes, opportunities to grow, and you adjust. And so that's how the team grows now. Our HR team does all of that.
Very cool. So what are some of the obstacles or challenges you're still working on?
Yeah. So for me, it is always still time management. With all the things that I have going on, that is probably my biggest obstacle. And I think the way that I overcome that is through checklists, because I love a good checklist. It just makes my heart happy. I have a Trello board that has all the different things that, different aspects of my life. And that is how I kind of keep on top of all of that. So whatever area that I'm in, so if I'm in mommy mode, or if I'm in CEO mode, or if I'm in actor mode, I can go to that and I know exactly what the most important thing is, because it's on that list and it's, prioritized appropriately in there. And so that allows me to function at top capacity, because when I am in that mode, I know exactly where to go and where to start. So but finding the time to do all the things and prioritizing what I'm truly passionate about is the thing that I always have to come back to and circle back to, because it seems like I'm constantly getting busier and constantly more going on and evaluating what's most important. But I think that's probably my biggest obstacle is time management, because I think it's something that I have to constantly maintain. It's a constant thing. Other things I tend to find a solution for and overcome more easily. That I seem to babysit, if that makes sense. I think that's something that's just ongoing for me.
Well, I want to ask you more about your Trello board. So I'm interested in hearing more about that.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of experience with that. But before we do that, I want to make sure that anyone that's listening on this web call, this podcast, if you would, please put in a hashtag live. If you're listening live, if you're listening on replay, put in a hashtag replay. Let me know where you're coming in from. That would be helpful as well. And then also, if you would, put a picture in your timeline in order to be entered into the raffle to win a free copy of my book. Sometimes it does take a brain surgeon. Please put a picture in your timeline of you winking. And when you wink, I want you to think, if this guy, me, knows what makes him unique, I want to make me unique. Because I know what makes me unique is the ability to share my story and willingness to share my story with other people to have a lasting impact on their lives. So I want you to have that as well. So in order for you to do that, you start with a wink, and that's where we all go. So, wow. Oh, and also share this video out with as many other people as you can. I would appreciate that as well. That makes this community larger, and we all get something out of that. So that's really where this is going. So thank you so much. Back to you, Rachel. So tell me a little bit about your Trello board.
So my Trello board is essentially a digital to-do list for me. If you're familiar with Trello, it has different columns and you can put little like tasks or stickers, things. I can't even think of the right word on it right now to add the things. But anyway, I use it as my to-do list. So each thing I add is a responsibility or something that I'm responsible for. So I've got one that is just general stuff that I need to accomplish. Just, it doesn't fit into a category. It just needs to happen. And then I have one for homeschooling. So to, just whatever our summer activities for the kids, things I don't want to forget to do, or, future activities, things like that. Then I have one for a couple different like people at check off your list. Like, so I have one for my business coach, like things that he's working on, things I'm working on, things we're working on together, so that when we have our call, like that's all isolated. And I have one for our marketing team because I do some of our marketing for the podcast, that type of thing. I have responsibilities, make this video, think through this content, that type of thing. And so like, I just have it isolated in categories that work for me, and then prioritize them, slide them up and down on the Trello board based on importance. So when I sit down, because I will sit down to work and I have a finite amount of time. Like I know that the clock is ticking. And so I can go right to the Trello board and start at the top and just knock that out. Just start at the top because that's the most important. That's the most urgent. And I have to strategically, when I'm done working, leave enough time to make sure that I leave it prioritized so that when I dive in, I don't have to regather my thoughts. I don't have to recalibrate myself to what I'm doing. I can sit down and just go. And that really helps me juggle the various things that are going on, because I'll be solving a fight over here or fixing a snack, doing a math lesson. And then, okay, everything's good. I'm going to have 45 minutes to go sit down and be productive. So then I need to sit down. Productivity needs to start now. And that's kind of how it helps me. That's how I use that tool. There are plenty of Trellos. Like that's just one option. Asana is another one. Monday is another one. Microsoft has their own, which I've considered converting to because we use Microsoft for all of our things at Check Off Your List. And so that would just be streamlined. That would just take a migration that I haven't tackled yet. But so there are definitely different options as far as that goes, but it's essentially a digital to-do list for me.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I'm not familiar with. I haven't had many conversations with people about Trello boards, so that's new.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a digital to-do list for me. I also like pen and paper from time to time. It just depends on what I'm doing. And I have sat down because there is something about writing things. So sometimes when I am planning and dreaming and processing, I will pen and paper and then move it to the Trello board for long term. But it's essentially a to-do list.
Awesome. Well, so you have a lot going on. You have a lot of things you work on. But there's always sometimes where we have blind spots. There are things we don't see that we should be seeing. Who helps you to see your blind spots?
I would say my team does. I just actually am working on a podcast about not being the smartest person in the room. And I think that is part of the success that I've had at Check Off Your List is I have intentionally made myself not the smartest person in the room. And that has helped me grow. They challenge me. They push back when I have, when I maybe don't have a good idea, because that happens. Sometimes I have good ones too, but and I think that is critical for me. And so I've found people who do things better than me and surround myself with them and who fill in my gaps. And because we all have our own strengths. And so figuring out what my strengths are and where I am best or most impactful, I should say, that was, just important in general for my success and for, figuring out where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. But then figuring out my shortcomings and, seeing blind spots, I think a willingness to see them also helps. I think that's a mentality of no, it's not a bad thing to acknowledge that you have a shortcoming or that you have a blind spot or that you're not good at something, but it's what you do with it at that point. And so I've surrounded myself with a team who will think for themselves and say, hey, Rachel, that's great, but how about this? And go from there. I think that's probably that's probably the way that I see most of my blind spots.
Hmm.
People will point them out for me.
Wow, that's good. That's really good. So you again, you have a lot going on, and I can't believe it. We are almost at the end of our time. It just goes by so fast with great guests like you. But tell me, what do you do for clarity? How do you really just clear your mind and know this is what you're working on? The Trello board, is that it?
Yeah. So oftentimes it is the Trello board or like pen and paper, just like writing things down. That helps. Going back to what I'm passionate about and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, why did I say yes to this? Why is this on my calendar? Why did I choose to do this? And that, I think, is what helps me get my clarity. And then also, sometimes I need to say no,
Yeah.
realizing that maybe that shouldn't be on there. But I think that is really, I'm a very intentional person. And so that intentionality, I think, helps me with my clarity. And being intentional about what I choose to do, what I choose to outsource, and what I just say no to is really what all helps me with my clarity. Intentionality, I would say, is what that is.
So tell me, what do you do to recharge?
To recharge, people. I
Really?
am a people person, so my group of people that I hang out with, the people that encourage me, that I just am friends with, spending time with them is how I recharge. I'm also always good for just a bottle of wine and relaxing and a manicure. That helps too.
That's nothing wrong with that. That's good. Red or white?
Oh, red, but it needs to be sweet, not dry. So like a Roscato. It's almost grape juice, really.
So my wife likes apothic red.
Oh yeah. Yes. I've had that.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Wow, this has been great. I so appreciate your time. So, but tell us, really, what's the next level of success look like for you?
Yeah, the next level of success for me, like what I see just down the line, is continuing to grow my podcast is definitely part of that. But I would love to create a course that helps people outsource, that walks them through, holds their hand, guides them through how to outsource. Because a lot of people don't know where to start. They don't know what to outsource. They don't know how to figure out what they should do, what someone else should do. And I've done a lot of thinking about that. And that is something that I would like to help people do. So that is on my radar, to create a course about that. And then also, like on a personal level, some of my goals is to travel more. One of the things I wanted to do was a traveling, theater, performing group, that type of thing. And while that's not on my radar anymore, but traveling more with my family, which we've started to do more. So that is also on my horizon as well, which we've started implementing. And then just continuing to grow Check Off Your List. We're continuing to add more services to be a true full service back office support team. So it's a one-stop shop for a business owner who, I have this skill, people are paying me to do it, but now I have a business and I didn't sign up for that. What do I do? How do I handle my bookkeeping? How do I market this? How do I hire a team member and have some place for them to go? Because that's something that I see a lot of businesses need. They don't know what those next steps are.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, that's great. Thank you again so much for joining us today.
No problem. I've had fun.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to wave you off, but you can wave to the crowd as well.
But there it is.
Right. Then I'm going to have you go back to the green room, and I will come see you here in a second after I close out the show.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Rachel. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Oh, wow. What a joy to talk to. That was phenomenal. So we've got great stuff coming up. Like the talk with Rachel, tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, Thursday. We'll be working through different things with, with with the ability for me to get these words out of my mouth. That's a hard thing for me to work through right now. So I want to make sure that you all understand what's going on with the speech impediment that I have that I've acquired. It's going to continue to do this at times. There are other times where I don't have a problem with it, but I get hung up on my words and I get hung up on my thoughts at times. So bear with me. I appreciate you all being on here today. So we do have great shows for you coming up, but then Friday will be a day where we have David Blake come back on and talk about radical vision for disabilities. So people with disabilities and others that are caregivers, and how important it is for us all to understand that those caregivers need to know what the person with those disabilities needs to tell them, sometimes when they're even not verbal. So I look forward to you all being back on these shows and giving so much for all of us. I appreciate your time this morning. I appreciate you just being here. So thank you very much. And as always, keep one eye on the road. Talk to you soon.